circle back to Gotcha because I got a couple of oddball questions for you that I don't think anybody's ever asked you about with that film. Um, you don't have to tell us about the microfilm as far as what's in it. We get it. We never supposed to find out what it is. But was there ever a draft where we found out what was on it, or if there was a different MacGuffin before the final film?
Okay, so the answer is in the script that I read, you never found out. When it changed studios, one of the studio notes was you got to figure out what that is, and we have to divulge what's on the tape, on the microfilm. And we brought in a new writer, and he stayed with us during the shoot, and we kept coming up with what it might be, and nobody liked whatever it was. It seemed like a cliche. It's going to be a biological warfare, or it's going to be a germ thing, or it's going to be a new weapon, and finally we all just said, fuck it, we never find out what it is, and that's how it stayed.
Yeah, spy shit. That's all I care about. Spy shit.
It was about spy shit. That's it.
Yeah. Okay, second question I have for you. Did the Nick Castle movie Tag the Assassination Game have any influence on Gotcha?
No. I had actually not seen that movie before we made Gotcha. I used to play paintball. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't feel like I needed to borrow anything from anywhere. I saw Tag after that, I think. Was Bobby Carradine in that? No, somebody.
Yeah, he was. He was the lead.
Was. No, I had never watched Tag before I made that movie.
Okay. Well, it's rare to find anyway. I saw my aunt had a recording of it on HBO, so that's how I remember it. Now, the third question. This has been burning in my head for a very long time, Jeff. Okay.
Just like,
Did you know about the Gotcha video game and the paintball toy line after the movie came out? The Nintendo game.
I heard about it, but like I have no ownership of Gotcha, so I mean they didn't have to ask me about it. Whether they went to Fox or no, it was Universal. Whether they had to get Universal's permission, or there was a producer named Michael Levy on it. I don't know if they had, but I had no ownership of that material, so they didn't have to come to me.
Because I think MCA owned LJN, which was the toy company, and they did a whole line of paintball guns with the title of the film. Nothing to do with the movie. Like, even if you played a video game, there's nothing like related to your film. And I think they ended up going under because they were also selling those water guns that people were knocking 7-Elevens with and got sued. So that's pretty much the story there. I was just curious if you knew about that.
No, I would see it in the world and wonder, hey, did they ever get the rights to that? But it was kind of not up to me, so it didn't matter that much.
Yeah, because I thought it would have been funny, like watching B.Y. Wachowski when you see the guy in the firehouse playing Hogan's Alley with Nintendo. That could have been a good place to have the Gotcha video game. You gotta have that little tie-in reference.
All right, let's go back and reshoot that then. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I'll come with you. Yes, let's talk about Tough Guys, because that I rewatched the other day, and it still gives me a smile to my face. It is such a pleasant film. The jokes still work. Douglas and Lancaster have incredible chemistry together. But then I also heard that they didn't get along that well off camera. Is that true?
Well, they had done many films together and a play, and they know each other a long time. And what I learned making that film was they had it was like a marriage. They basically loved each other, but they got on each other's nerves. and part of it was Kirk, with his script notes, Kirk was always coming up with stuff, and Bert just liked to shoot the script that he committed to and then go home. He didn't want to have to rewrite it. So there was this over Kirk's script notes. Because I had a relationship with Kirk, was always open to his stuff because he had taught me a lot, and Bert considered me Kirk's bitch. So, it just made him want to wish he wasn't there. And also there was a whole series of beats before we actually made the movie where I was given the script by the guy who hired me to do Nerds. He was now back to being an independent producer, and he sent me the script and said, "Can you get this to Kirk?" I got it to Kirk. Kirk got it to Bert. And neither of them was working that much anymore. So Bert said, okay. And the movie went forward. And we were scheduling and we were hiring crew people and casting. And then we got a notification from ICM that Bert just took another job. And you're going to have to wait 2 extra months before you make this movie. So I had to tell that to Kirk, and he was kind of pissed off, but he really wanted to make the movie, so he let it happen. So now Bert goes over to Europe to make this other movie, and about a month or so in, the word comes back, the director died on that movie that Bert was making in Europe, and he's coming back. So now it's like, okay, let's go, let's full speed ahead on Tough Guys, and we gear up and we start doing that again, and then I get a call from the agency again. Bert just took a job on a mini series in Mexico, and you're gonna have to postpone again. So now I have to call Kirk, and Kirk's really now getting pissed. Also, Kirk was pissed because he obviously wanted to do the movie more than Bert, and so Bert, usually whenever they made a movie together, they would toss a coin who gets top billing in the domestic market, and the other guy gets top billing international. They always tossed a coin. On this one, Bert wasn't tossing a coin. He's taking top billing everywhere. So Kirk was a little annoyed at that. And now Bert's making him wait. And so there was a lot of tension between them. So when we actually got to make the movie, it wasn't a love fest. But working didn't impact their work at all. I mean, they did their parts and they were great. And they were able to project the love that they really that was underneath anything anyway. But you know, there were a lot of moments. There was a moment when Kirk and there's one of their old hangout when they come out of prison. Their old hangout was a bar called Mickey's, and it's now a gay bar.
Yes.
Kirk goes in there and he's having a beer, and suddenly he looks over and guys are dancing with each other, and he realizes, oh my God, it's a gay bar. Now he's walking out, and here comes Bert about to walk in, and Kirk stops him outside and says, you don't want to go in there, Harry. Why? Just trust me, you don't want to go in there. We rehearsed the first take, or we're shooting the first take, and it was like a 2-shot, you know, waist up. And right in the middle of the take, I hear Kirk say, get your fucking hands off me, Bert. I say, cut, what's the matter? He goes, I know what you're trying to do, Bert. Bert was trying to turn it around so that instead of being over his shoulder onto Kirk, he wanted it to be 50-50 profiles, basically. He was trying to turn Kirk like that. So they had a little tip about that. And then there were a few more things like that as we went along. But overall, I wanted to do it because I thought it was great to see those guys together. And I also, it was like a challenge to me, you know, can I survive 2 big stars like that? Let's see what I can do. And so in the end, it was a great experience, but there were bumps along the way.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a movie I remember well. You had Dana Carvey in like one of his first on-screen roles. Did you have to really like try to direct him to not be intimidated by like the rest of this, you know, big name legendary cast around him?
No, and the reason is it worked for his character. So he looked up to these 2 guys, just like his character Richie the parole officer looked up to Harry and Archie. So it felt good. But a lot of guys had come in and read for this part, including Jim Carrey, who was a little bit too big and physical comedy. So I wanted to hire Dana. And the studio, when they saw Dana's audition, because he hadn't done Saturday Night Live yet, he was still coming off some TV roles, they said, we don't like this guy. He's not funny. I said, well, it's not a comical role, really. He's this young guy who was in awe of these 2 guys, but he's really likable and great. Yeah, but he's not funny. I go, well, he's funny. He's a stand-up and he's capable of being quite funny. They said, well, we audition him again, funny. So I call him up. I go, listen, they want you to audition again. You know I want you for the part. Let's do a little slightly over the top version of such and such a scene, just so they can see. So we do that, and he has all great ideas and instincts, and we made it too funny, or much funnier than I was ever going to shoot it in the movie. And I send it to them, and they go, he's over the top. I go, Over the top, what do you mean? They go, he's too funny. I go, well, how about this? He can be too funny and he can be not funny enough. So I promise I'll get him just right in the middle. Okay. Yeah, okay. But they were a little bit against him, but eventually they got used to him.
Also, is it true that Eli Wallach was actually a replacement for Adolf Caesar in that role?
Yes, it's true. Adolf, back in my trailer days, I did a lot of the films Slaughter and Coffee and Foxy Brown, and I always used Adolf to narrate those things because he was great at it. Plus, he was a really good actor, and he had done Soldier Story, whatever. But I knew when I read Tough Guys, I wanted him to play the guy who's after Kirk and Burt. Leon B. Little was his name. And, he came out to LA, did his wardrobe, whatever, and he was going to start shooting, I don't know, the next day. And meanwhile, that morning, I'm shooting a scene with Harry and Archie, Kirk and Burt, and all of a sudden people are running around on the set, disappearing off the set, the ADs and whatever. I'm like, what's going on? And somebody tells me Adolf collapsed in the honey wagon.
Wow.
So I go over there and they're loading him out on a stretcher and they're putting him in an ambulance and take him away, and he died that day. So Kirk and Burt come to me and they go, we're not going to stop shooting, are we?
Oh,
Like true professionals.
So I go, nope, we're going to keep shooting and we'll just adjust the schedule and we got to find another Leon. So different people were brought up for it. We had Charles Durning, so he wasn't brought up for it. But anyway, what's his name? Mr. Jefferson. What's Mr. Jefferson's name?
Oh, Sherman Hemsley?
Sherman Hemsley.
Sherman came in and said he would do it to replace Adolf. And then the studio called and said, what about Adolf? What about Eli Wallach? And I always thought he was great. I said, yeah, sure. And he's like a contemporary of Kirk and Burt. So we picked Eli, and he was great. I mean, now I can't see anybody else other than him.
Yeah, I mean, he's great, but I would love to see the Sherman Hemsley version.
Yeah, he would have been great too.
Now on Tough Guy, since you had an older cast, did you have to be more, I guess, careful with the stunts or like, cutting away for certain shots?
No, I mean, the only real older cast, I mean, there was Charles Durning, but he didn't really have stunts. And Kirk and Burt, even though Burt had some like arthritis problems, whatever, but when they were in front of the camera, it was like they had no problems. They could do anything. There was a scene when they have to climb up on top of the train and they run across the train while it's in motion and they take over from the engineer, whatever that is. And the studio, Kirk liked me for this, even though it might have been like wrong for me to do this, but Kirk, the studio said, we don't want them on top of the train. The insurance will be too expensive, because if they fall off or whatever. So we wanted to use stuntmen for that. And I knew that they were going to say, fuck no, we're doing it. So we just shot it at a slower speed, than we maybe normally would. And they did it. And the studio was really mad at me. And they made me sign a letter, like indemnifying them against if anything happens to Kirk and Burt, you're paying whatever, it's going to be on you. So I signed it because I figured it would be okay. And nothing happened. We were fine. And when Kirk found out that I had signed that, I think it made him respect me or something, even though it was probably a dumb thing to do. But no, they did all their own stuff and they did it great.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about Kirk. I mean, he was in great shape even at that time. Oh my God, like him lifting the weights in the gym and
here's a little thing. I don't know if I've said this anywhere before, but Kirk calls me up one day in the middle of the shoot and says, I got a great idea. Come over to the house. So I come over to the house. It's a Sunday. And it was right before Super Bowl. And he says, this crazy quarterback for the Bears, Jim McMahon? I go, yeah. He goes, well, I read where he mooned a helicopter that was flying over their practice field. I go, yeah, I read that. He goes, I want to do that in the movie. I go, what do you mean? Well, when we're on the train and Charles Durning is chasing us in a helicopter, I want to moon him. I go, no, 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 no. It's a Disney movie. You can't do that. And Bert, Bert will walk off the picture if you do that. He goes, shoot it on a day when he's not there. I figured, okay, so we work it out so that we send Bert home early one day, and we do that, and it was funny, and it's in the movie. And then I somehow Bert found out about it after the fact. We never talked about it, and then they had a screening for college newspaper editors or something, and somebody stood up in that screening and said, "I just want to say that whoever had the bad taste to have Kirk Douglas bare his ass on screen should be shot." I said, all right, thank you. A couple of days or a week later, Bert comes in to do some looping. And I didn't have that much to talk to him because I knew he wasn't that crazy about me for a lot of reasons. I just remembered another story. But so I wanted to have a little dialogue with him just to relax before we did the looping. And I tell him about this screening. And I figure he'll like this story because it's negative about me. I'd say, we had the screening and this kid stands up and he says, whoever had Kirk Douglas, bare his ass on the screen should be shot. And he goes, I agree with him.
Darlene Flugel, who played Sky in the film, apparently a lot of actresses were up for that role, and she actually fired her agent to get the part to be Kirk Douglas' love interest.
Yeah, that's true. There were a lot of people that read for the part, and I saw her in Running Scared.
Yeah, love that movie.
I thought she was great, and I wanted her, and her agent would not let her come in. And I must have gotten her number somehow, and I called her up and I said, please, you'd be so great with you and Kirk Douglas. She goes, I know, but my agent says I shouldn't do it. I go, well, why don't you just come in and read with Kirk or something? Somehow I got her to do it. She says, my agent's not going to let me. And then she fired her agent, and her next agent said, okay. And she came in and she did it. And she was great. She was great. The thing that I just remembered about Bert was, there was a couple of things, but when we were trying to get Bert to get out of this European picture, I'm sorry. When he went down to Mexico and postponed us for the second time, so the word comes back, Mr. Lang, and I wanted to call him and talk to him about it, or I wanted to fly down and talk to him, and he said, no, he won't see you, he won't speak to you. So he's going to be back in town January 1st. You can talk to him then. So I was in New York. I fly back to LA, waiting to meet with Bert, find out what's the problem, what's the situation. And I call the ICM agent, and they say, Mr. Lancaster's playing golf. He'll call you when he's finished. Okay, so I sit there for 5 or 6 hours, and then I call again. Is he back there yet? Yes, he's here in the office. Can I speak to him? No, he doesn't want to speak to you. I go, all right, well, let me speak to the agent then. The agent gets on, the guy that I knew. I go, listen, what's the deal? Bert passes. He's not going to do the movie. I go, really? I go, all right, tell you what. It's not so bad for him to do this to me or even to Disney, but for him to do this to Kirk Douglas, just tell Bert that I think he's a great actor. I really respect him professionally, but I think he's an immoral, irresponsible prick. The guy goes, he says you're an immoral, irresponsible prick. He goes, okay, he heard you, and we hang up. And then I call Kirk and I go, Bert's out. We got to call out to Lee Marvin. We got to call to Frank Sinatra, and he goes, no, I'm calling Bert. He calls Bert, calls me back a half hour later. Bert's doing the movie. I say, okay. And now I get a call back. Mr. Lancaster will do the movie, but you have to apologize. I said, you know what? No. I think what I said was justified based on his behavior. And I'm glad he's doing the movie, but I'm not going to apologize. Hang up. Call back a half hour later. Mr. Lancaster will do the movie, but he won't speak to you. And that's how we started.
I don't think a lot of directors have those kind of guts anymore.
He would talk to the producer, you know, he'd say, tell him that such and such, or ask him such. He wouldn't talk directly to me. But then he got tired of that and we got over it.
I had a question about a particular scene in Tough Guys. When Kirk Douglas goes to the clothing store and he's talking to the guy through the TV,
Yeah.
was that based on a real story? Like, where did that idea come from? Because that was like way ahead of its time.
That was the writers. We used a store called, it was called Parachute. It was in Beverly Hills, but there was not a salesman only on his TV screen. It was in the script and we just shot it that way.
Was Burt Lancaster by any chance jealous that Kirk Douglas got to romance a younger leading lady than he did?
No.
Okay.
He was perfect. He was happy with the casting of Alexis Smith for his lead.
Okay.
Kirk was a little more of a Romeo than Burt, I guess, all the way through.
It works that way. I mean, their relationship is very sweet. And then obviously with Kirk, that's kind of sweet too. Even the way that they kind of break up at the end, it's not anything harsh. It doesn't make Darlene Flugel look unlikable. It's just kind of like, yeah, you know, it's not going to work out because of the age difference. But I don't regret the time we had together. I thought that was really cute.
Yeah, no, that was in the writing. Those guys did a good job on the script. They watched Kirk and Burt on host, you know, being presenters or something on the Oscars the year before, and they decided that they should write a Kirk and Burt movie, and that's what that was.
Back to Troop Beverly Hills for a second. The animated title sequence by the creator of Ren and Stimpy, whose idea was that to do that sequence?
The specifics of it were almost all this guy John Crisfalusi who did the everything in there is his idea. The idea of doing an animated title sequence may have been my idea. I don't even know. I can't remember. I mean, otherwise it would have just been her driving around Beverly Hills with titles over it. So it seemed like a more fun thing to do. And the one thing is the composer, Randy Edelman, he had written a really cool theme for and being still a frustrated songwriter, I wrote lyrics for that. And we put that behind the opening the animation. And I got Tasha, the girl who sings Cookie Time, to sing it. It was called Shopping for Love. Let's see, how does it go? Money can buy you fine things, luxury cars and diamond rings, champagne and caviar, but it can't buy love. There's a whole song that she sang about that, and it was great. But Jerry Weintraub had a friend who knew the Beach Boys, and they had a song that they had recorded called "Make It Big," and the word came down, throw that song of yours out. And everybody's always throwing my song out. I don't understand. So that got thrown out, and this Beach Boys song is behind those credits now.
Actually, that reminds me of another question, and this goes back to Tough Guys. I love the Kenny Rogers theme song in that film. It's very sweet. It's very much melancholy of their relationship. Is it true, and I saw this on IMDb, that there's a version of that song by Gladys Knight and Smokey Robinson? They recorded it before Kenny Rogers, or is that just some BS?
No, it's not BS. It's true.
Oh, wow.
No, it's not Gladys and Smokey. What it was is Burt Bacharach wrote the song. Mm-hmm. I had wanted him to do the score because Butch Cassidy, he did the score for that. And I thought that would be perfect. But Disney wouldn't let him have his publishing. They wanted the publishing. So Burt said, well, I'm not going to do a score if I can't have the publishing, but I'll do a theme song. So he wrote this theme song. They don't make them like they used to. Mm-hmm. And he got Gladys Knight to record it, which was great. And she sang it, and it was great. But then Universal wouldn't put it out as a single. So had to take that off. Then he got Kenny Rogers, who recorded it. And that was okay. It didn't have the same feel and flavor as the Gladys thing, but it was okay. But then Burt felt that the Kenny Rogers thing was just a little bland. So then he got Smoke to come in and do it as a duet, and that was really cool. Then Kenny Rogers didn't felt he was upstaged by Smokey, and so he didn't let Smokey be on this record, even though it had been recorded. But so it was just Kenny Rogers. It was not on his greatest hits.
Yeah. So now the last like major studio credit you had was V.I. Warshawski, and I really don't want to get too much into that. I know that wasn't the greatest experience for you, but was it
good? It was mostly, it was not.
Oh, it was. Okay.
Oh, that was a mostly good experience. No, I had a really bad experience before that, but which we never talk about, but it just has to do with a movie that I set up and was the director of until the last minute. And then we had a casting issue about who was going to play this one part, and that cost me the job, and that was Dead Poets Society.
Oh.
And that's the only movie that I've ever been associated with where I actually got net profits. Because when they fired me, I kept my little 5 net points. But all the other movies I've made, including Nerds and Troop Beverly Hills, never a penny of net profit.
Oh man.
Were there ever like other projects you were offered that you turned down and wish you had done at any point in your career?
Now, are you just asking that, or do you have a list in front of you? Because
no, I actually don't have a list. There's nothing that says, "Oh, Jeff Kanew was attached to this and got fired."
Yeah, because I was going to ask the same question.
Okay, so when I was over starting Gotcha with Anthony, and I was going to get to film in Paris and Berlin, it was going to be so great. The guys who eventually took over Disney, Katzenberg, sent me. He was at Paramount, and he sent me this script called Top Gun. I read it. And I thought, yeah, it's good, but it doesn't really have an ending because there was no battle at the end of the script initially. It doesn't have an ending, so it's just about a bunch of pilots in training school. And I don't. That's not my thing. Like I don't know if I'll do a good job on that. And I really want to do Gotcha, so I passed on Top Gun to do Gotcha. Yeah. Then there was a movie called Good Morning Vietnam. It was Robin Williams, Barry Levinson. I don't know if he wrote it, but anyway, I guess Barry didn't write it. Disney sent it to me. This was after Tough Guys. I thought, yeah, it's a pretty good script, but I know what's going to happen is Robin Williams is just going to do Robin Williams the whole time. And what am I going to do? Just say action and cut. I don't want to do that. So I passed on that. That was a mistake. Then there was a movie called Turner and Hooch. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe it was that. I don't remember the exact sequence. Turner and Hooch was about a cop and this dog, this big slobbering dog. And it was Tom Selleck and a dog. And I thought, that sounds perfect to me. I like that. I went over to Hawaii. I met with Tom Selleck. Everything's great. But then a few weeks went by, and then the word comes down that Tom Selleck has this other movie called Her Alibi with Paulina Porras.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got to get another actor. And they said to me, what about Tom Hanks? And I said, nah, I don't see him as a cop. So I didn't do that one. And then the same thing happened with Big. I got Big to read, and I read it, and I thought, it's like a one joke movie, to the guy, and it doesn't, the ending is silly and crystal ball, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to do that. So I didn't do Big. And there's probably a bunch of others that I forgot to say yes to. But what are you going to do?
We had our ideas for a Gotcha sequel, but I don't think that's ever going to happen.
I spend a lot of time, because I don't have a whole lot to do, doing Photoshop on my phone. And I decided to take the Gotcha poster and find current versions of Anthony and Linda and put their heads on it. And I did that. And I made it up as a poster. I forget what, he's 40 years later, he's not a Weirgin anymore, or something like that.
Oh man.
But if you come up with a Gotcha sequel, I'll commit to doing it for nothing.
Well, this is we did a review of Gotcha. This was the idea that I had, and it's a loose idea, but it would be Anthony Edwards' kid going to like a paintball tournament someplace in Europe, and the same stuff starts to happen. You know, not the college thing, because obviously you can't do that stuff now. You can't have college paintball going on a campus, or else they start calling, you know, Homeland Security on you. But something along those lines. And
so are Anthony and Linda still married? Are they the parents?
Well, you see, that was the thing, because you know, Linda Ferrantino's been out of the spotlight for so long. So the idea was that maybe she died of cancer somehow. I don't know. Unless there's a way to bring her back. I mean, I've been open to it.
Yeah. You think she's like laid up somewhere? I don't know.
It could be a third man where she just comes out in the third act out of nowhere.
No, I think we could do it like Taken, you know, where Anthony and Linda have to go rescue their kid from Vlad over in Russia or something.
Yeah, or it could be like the son of Vlad, and you get like I don't know, the Mads Mikkelsen, somebody.
Let's go. I'm there.
I'll write it and we'll talk.
Okay.
This pitch meeting going well.
So, why, you know, like V.I. Warshawski, that was like really your last big studio film. Was that by choice, or was it just the phone stopped ringing at that point?
Unfortunately, the answer is number 2. No, what happened was, okay, V.I. Warshawski, you know, in between, I had gotten, I don't know why, I never think of myself as someone who gets fired a lot, but I think I did. I got kicked off at the end of Eddie Macon's run. I got kicked off of Dead Poets. So, and I guess you make enemies along the way, and people, I know somebody once went in and pitched me to this guy, David Hoberman, who was the head of it was Hollywood Pictures and Touchstone. And they go, oh, the producer of V.I. Warshawski pitched me on a project to David, and his, I think his response was, over my dead body, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had alienated a few people. I didn't really mean to, but I did. You know the expression "speak truth to power."
Mm-hmm.
I was naive enough to think that, well, now I'm a director, so I should stand up. Like when I said to Kirk Douglas, I don't agree with your ideas, or when I disagreed with Jerry Weintraub, I just felt like I'm supposed to do that. You know, that's part of my job, is to defend what I think I should defend. And so I had enough people out there that I think they go, well, it's okay while he's had a couple of hits, but as soon as he has a couple of flops, we're done with him. So I kind of think that's what happened. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and right after V.I. Warshawski came out, which, I mean, it was a decent movie. It wasn't the greatest movie, but Kathleen was good, and it was a pretty good movie, but it didn't do well. And one day I was in a restaurant, and I saw the guy who was the head of Hollywood Pictures at the time, who was a very nice guy. And I went over and said hi, or he came up. No, I went over and said hi to him, and he said, hey. And I said, let me ask you a question. Every job I get put up for at your studio, the word comes back, I'm not right for it. I said, what's the deal with that? And he says, well, I'll be honest with you. We thought you did a good job on Warshawski, but you didn't do a great job. And right now we're only hiring people that did a great job on their last movie. And that was sort of it for me. And I kind of, the flow stopped of people sending me stuff. And then I got a little distracted by life, and I did do some stuff with Kirk, like I did the Touched by an Angel thing.
Yeah.
Kirk got me this job. He was going to be in this movie in Russia, and he asked the producer if I could be the director, and the producer said yes. So I was going to direct this movie in Russia, this Holocaust movie called Babi Yar. And then Kirk realized that because of his stroke and whatever, he wasn't going to be able to spend 4 months in Russia. So he bailed. And then I thought that job was over for me. So I contacted the German producer, and I said, I assume that without Mr. Douglas, I'm not on anymore. And he basically said, no, you're on, but we're cutting your salary in half. So I took it. And I did this movie there. That was in 2001. But in the interim, I had a big valley of nothing. I went back and I did trailers for a while, which I made some money, but I wanted to sort of kill myself because I had sort of been to the mountaintop and now I was
Yeah.
back in the valley. And then I got this chance to do this movie in Russia, and that was a great experience and a terrible experience. And the movie, nobody ever saw the movie, but I felt good about it. And I did that TV stuff. And I probably, the biggest mistake I ever made was not stay. Once I did the Touched by an Angel, 3 episodes of that, if I had just stayed in TV, I'd still be working, you know. But I didn't, because I went to Russia, and by the time I got back, it was like, the flow had stopped again. And here we are.
Wow.
Time
Well,
flies.
you did do a movie called Adam and Eve
Oh,
with Kirk's grandson, Cameron, and that was your son's script. So what was that experience like to direct a script that your son did and working with Cameron?
It was great. My son wrote that script in college. It was 7 pages long, and all it was one scene. It was based on an actual conversation that he had with his roommates, because my son was dating a girl who wouldn't sleep with him. And so it was this dialogue between these guys saying, "What the fuck's wrong with you? There's something wrong with this girl. Get rid of her." And there's a scene of that's in the sort of the middle of the movie between Jake Hoffman and Cameron and Charles Lynn. Geez, I'm so bad at names now. Anyway, they have this good dialogue scene that's based pretty much verbatim on that thing that my son wrote. But we fleshed it out to make it a whole movie about the romance between him and this girl, and the problem, she won't sleep with him, and then they break up, and then they get back together. And so I came off doing a $20 million movie on Warshawski, and I made a movie for $350,000. And it was just as much fun. It was 18 days instead of 40 or 50 or whatever, but it was just like making a movie, and we had a pretty good crew, and we got good actors, and it was a good experience.
Yeah, I have to imagine like not having the studio pressure or anybody kind of coming down on you, just like even on a tight budget, being more creative than if you have like 15, 20 million to spend.
More freedom.
I mean, the more that there's at stake, the more people get a vote to, participate creatively. So this was this little movie, 18 days. Everybody left us alone. And I mean, I'm happy with the movie. It ended up really, it played in one theater for 1 week in Texas and never in another theater, but then came out as a DVD for New Line. And from what I gather, the $350,000 movie sold like $2 million worth of DVDs, but there was no profits.
Oh,
Figure that one. So that happened. And then a couple of years later, my son, having written that script, he got a job at National Lampoon, and he ended up being sort of their head of development for Lampoon, got involved with a few movies. And then the script that he and I had both read at some point was called The Legend of Awesomest Maximus. And he called me up and he said, "Hey, Lampoon just bought that script." And I said, "Oh, great. I mean, I'd love to do that." He goes, "Well, the thing is," and now here's my own kid talking to me, "I can't really put you on the list." I go, "Oh, you mean because I haven't done anything in a while?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "All right, I get it. Yes, but if the opportunity comes up, I will. I'll put you on there, but I can't do it right now. I'm sorry." I go, "Okay, I get it." Enough guys must have said no. He calls me up one day and he goes, "You're on the list. You have a meeting tomorrow. Come in." And I came in and I did a good tap dance and I got the job. And we did that movie. It was a little different dynamic because he was now working for the National Lampoon company, and the head of that company had his own ideas about how certain things should be. So he was constantly assigning my son to bully me. That movie turned out okay too.
Of all the projects you've done, I know this is kind of a tough question to answer, but which one do you feel the most proud of, the ones that you've accomplished as a director?
I think different ones for different reasons. I just recently watched Natural Enemies because of this new DVD that came out. And even though it's a little slow and a little talky, I'm pretty proud of that. I mean, considering that I didn't know what I was doing, and I got good performances, and it's a pretty good drama, if you don't mind a lot of dialogue and not much action. So I still feel good about that movie. I have to feel good about Nerds because it's a beloved movie, and I had a great fun making it, and it was a very collaborative effort, and it was just great. Gotcha, for different reasons. I love the idea of making a movie in Paris and Berlin and LA, and in a way I feel like Gotcha was my best movie. I don't know. Tough Guys was Kirk and Burt, so that was great. And again, I really enjoy working with the actors, so I'm happy with the performances in all the movies pretty much. Kathleen Turner was great. Shelley Long and I got along great. I never ended a process where I was never having a problem with the people making the movie or the cast or even the producer. It was always studio people, that were trying to bully me. I didn't handle diplomatically. I mean, there's a story that I've told some people that we were developing a script based on a Broadway show called Leader of the Pack, based on the relationship of these two songwriters, Jeff Barry and Ellie Greenwich, who wrote Be My Baby and all these great songs with Phil Spector. And their actual story was they fell in love, they got married, but they broke up, and she carried a torch for him forever and ever. And he married 5 more times, but they wrote all these great songs. So it was kind of, I used to think of it as the way we were in the rock and roll world. So I'm developing this, and the studio decided they wanted a certain writer to write the script. And I didn't agree with them because I met her and I felt like she just doesn't understand rock and roll. She's like a middle-aged, Middle Western. I don't know. I don't get it. But they hired her because she had written a good script on Children of a Lesser God, a movie about the deaf Marvin Mountain. Mm-hmm. I think she got nominated for it, whatever. So she got the job. It took her a year to write the draft of the script. And when it finally came in, the studio didn't like it. And I didn't like it. And they had kind of forced me to use her. So they call me in and they go, okay. And I was also the producer of that. Okay. And they call me in and they say, all right, we're hiring a different producer. And I go, well, okay, but really we need to hire a different writer. They go, no, we think we need a new producer and he'll work better in partnership with us. And, as we feel we need our own person there to keep control over the process. So I think, all right. So we're walking down the hall out of that meeting, and I say to this guy, David Hoberman, I say, look, David, I think it's really about the writer. It's really not about the producer, but it's your money, so do whatever you want. I said, for me, it's just one more person to say fuck you to. And I go, oh shit. And I say to him, David, sometimes I'm really sorry that I'm me. And he said, I'm always sorry that you're you. So I had a few of those guys sprinkled around the business that after I had a couple of movies not do well, I was suddenly like not on the lists anymore.
Well, I'll say this. So there was a part of me a big part of me that wishes there was more of those like gotcha type of films you could have done. Because that scene, the Citadel chase is so well paced, and just the coverage, how tight it is, the Bill Conti score going along with it. I mean, I don't see chases like that now unless it's like a Hans Zimmer type of deal, and that's always obstructive. But that was like tight and precise, and that movie still flows, and it still works now.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. I mean, and it was on the page, and the cast was good, and I had a really good line producer. I've worked with him several times. He's passed away, but he did Animal House, and then they brought him on to do Nerds. And the first day he got on, he's a British guy, and he comes into the office and he goes, "Hi, I'm Peter. I'm going to be the line producer." I go, "Okay, great." He goes, "But what I really am is the studio spy." I go, wow. I go. He goes, "But what I'm telling you about it is because they still think you may not be funny because of your other movies, but the head of the studio wanted to hire you, so they hired you. But the producers want me to sort of stand behind you, and if you're not funny, I got to call them and tell them you're not funny. But I won't do that. We'll work as a team, and we'll make this work. And that's what happened. So we became best friends, and we worked together. And he didn't get me fired, so that was good. And then we did Gotcha together, and he was always he was from England, so he knew the European filmmaking world better than I did. So he was always, like sort of getting ahead and getting things ready, and we had a great working relationship, and it was a good time.
So I guess as we're wrapping this up, what advice could you give to an aspiring filmmaker or an editor starting out in the business today?
Don't piss off powerful people. Find a way. Well, first of all, do every job you can. I mean, at the beginning, there was a girl who was the apprentice film editor on Revenge of the Nerds. Her name was Deborah Neal. Now it's Deborah Neal Fisher, whatever. And I could just tell she was smart and talented, and spoke her mind. And while the other people in the editing world would always, it was a union thing. You were an apprentice for a while, then you were an assistant for a while, and then maybe someday you actually get a chance to cut. She didn't want to wait, so she went out and she found little things, Army training films and stuff to do, so she could learn her craft of editing. And then she actually she did the drunken Vegas movies. Come on.
Oh, The Hangover.
She did Hangover 1 and 2, and she's done a lot of stuff, and now she's directing. And it's just about learn by doing, and take every job you can get, at the beginning, and then you can get more selective later on. But it's all about learning from the experience. I mean, if that's good advice, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have a daughter who is a really good writer. I made a little short film with her a couple of years ago, and it was in some film festivals and whatever. And I try to give her advice, but I don't have a lot of connections where, so I've been having a lot of trouble helping her get started. But she's talented, and maybe she will. I just don't feel like I have a lot of wisdom. I always feel like I did all these things and I learned from them, but I've taught some film classes after, in the lull in my career, and I always thought I wasn't a good teacher. I don't know why. I could do it, but I couldn't teach it as well as some people could. So I could stand behind somebody and say, you might try this or that in the editing room, but I don't know how to talk about the theory of editing, or the theory of camera work or directing or whatever. So, but I know
it's kind of like you just have to do it sometimes.
Yeah.
You can't really do it and read in a textbook and say, oh yeah, this is how the process works. No, you actually do it, because it's going to be a different experience every time.
Yeah, I mean, special effects is a different thing. I mean, I couldn't do Avatar if you held a gun. I just look at that and I go, how the fuck do they do that? But it's great, and there's there's lots of new wrinkles in technical stuff with that I'm sure you can create magic that not just, most of my stuff was always not even green screen. It was all shot as real, just real, and so if it works, great. But the enhancing things with graphics was not something I ever got good at.
Understandable.
Are you working on anything new, or is it just still early, not liberty to say?
No, am I working on anything new? I've written a couple of things, but I did get in the valley that I was in, I have trouble getting them read. And I get itchy to go make something, even for no money, but for some reason I just haven't been able to force myself to do that lately, except for that short film that I made with my daughter, and that was a great experience. I want to do that all the time. And then there's a project, the producer sent me a book, and I adapted it, and it came out pretty good. And she's been telling me we've got the money, but she's been telling me that for 11 years.
Yeah, one of those things.
So I'm not so sure that's going to happen. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't like to sound like I've given up because I haven't. I'd go out tomorrow and shoot a movie for nothing, just to do it because I really enjoy doing it. But I don't have an agent, for example. You got to have an agent. That's a big thing.
Yeah, well, look, if you ever need crew or actors, we're available. I mean, I'll even fly out to LA if I have to, just to work with the guy that did these movies that I grew up with.
For Gotcha 2, that jacket, his jacket.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. I feel like I got depressing at the end. Let's get
no, not at all.
No. Look, I just want to say, as we're closing out the episode, but in general, I'm sorry if I've been quiet most of this interview because I've just been loving listening to you talk and tell your stories. You've had an amazing career, and you are one of the filmmakers who, when I was a kid, I watched your movies on cable, on the big screen, but you're one of the reasons why I fell in love with movies, was watching those movies over and over and thinking, I want to be able to affect people in the same way. And even though maybe people don't look more behind the scenes anymore when it comes to movie making or even Hollywood filmmaking, I want to know, I want to say that, your films, like, again, when you were talking about Revenge of the Nerds and the relatability, same thing with, like, Gotcha. I saw that in those films eventually as I got older and got to know film. And I just want to say I love those films, and I love hearing you talk. And even though you say, you more have to do it than you can teach it, but I have to say I could just keep listening to you talk about, your work and your business. And I just want to thank you so much, not only for being here, but for your work.
Okay, well, I really appreciate your appreciation, and now it's exciting because we're going to be going to do Gotcha 2.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, let's not shoot in the Ukraine though. It's not.
Wrong time right now.
All right.
I mean, even London's not the same as it used to be, but hey, you never know.
You can find places.
Yeah. All right, so how do we wrap this up?
Do you have any social media or anything people want to find you at? Or
not really. I mean, you can find me on Facebook, I guess. I'm a little retarded about social media and stuff like that.
Elon's screwing a lot
permanently
of stuff.
permanently suspended from Twitter.
You're not missing anything, don't worry.
I was gonna say,
yeah. Because there's some congressman named Eric Greitens, Greitans, and he made a commercial or whatever you call it that played on the internet, and it was him bursting into a room with a shotgun and a bunch of armed guys behind him, and said, "We're going rhino hunting." Guys who are Republicans in name only.
Yeah.
So they're right-wing guys, and they got these weapons, and I just thought that's disgusting to see that there. So I made a comment, and I said, "I hope he shoots himself in the foot." I got permanently suspended for promoting violence.
Well, at least you went out for a good reason, at least.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, no, I got social media. No, I don't really know how to work that, but.
Well, Jeff, again, thank you so much for coming on and answering our questions, and just, for the great work that you've done. It's really been inspiring for us, and hopefully for the, the viewers that are watching this. Thank you really for your time.
Okay. Well, I thank you for having me. And in case my kids ever see this, I hope I didn't embarrass them.
Well, if you ever want to come back, feel free.
Okay. All right, cool. So,
other than Gotcha 2, we'll see you for that, definitely.
Bye.
All right.